Hi, and welcome to the M Squared Leadership Conversation, a space where we talk honestly about the real challenges that leaders face and what it actually takes to lead well in the real world. Hi, I'm Michelle Hales.
And I'm Michael Hales. Welcome in. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, so today we wanted to invite you in for a different kind of conversation. We maybe just want to talk about success and not really success in 10 easy steps way to gain success. Not really that, but maybe just from our lived experiences. What we think actually contributes to success and what gets in the way and what we've learned watching ourselves and each other and others over time. So, a bit of a disclaimer here. We're going to talk about ourselves a lot in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is simple. We know ourselves better than we know anybody else.
Yep.
We'll discuss some positives and some negatives, and not to brag or to put ourselves down in any way, but to share insights that might actually help. So some practical insights.
Yeah,
Maybe.
we're just going to try to be as real as we can and kind of unpack some of this stuff.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and just kind of dive in here a little bit. Mike, I'll ask you a few questions. You can reflect back and maybe, put the spotlight on me sometimes when you're tired of the spotlight being on you.
Yeah.
But let's just kind of get started with this. When you look back over your career and your life, what characteristics, habits, practices do you think contributed most to your success?
I think there are a few. This honestly is kind of hard for me talking about myself, and especially what I think it is about me that makes me good or successful to whatever extent I've been successful and all of that stuff. But I knew what we were going to be talking about and did a little homework. So I've got some notes here. And I think the first thing that I would say is just showing up. Just being consistent, because, and here's the thing, a lot of times you're not going to feel like it, but you do it anyway. You just keep showing up and you keep doing your best and you keep trying and you keep putting forth the effort and doing all those things. In a very literal sense, I used to work, I don't know if I've told that story on this podcast, this leadership conversation or not, but I worked for 9 years at Sara Lee Bakery. Part of that time I spent in the microbiology lab.
I remember.
I loved that time in my life. That was so fun.
It was a good environment for you in there.
I worked with a couple of very great coworkers, Joey and Miss Peggy. And during this time, I don't know where Joey came up with it really, but he challenged us. He said, hey, there's no reason we can't do this. Let's commit to having perfect attendance this year.
Okay.
And he just threw that out there. And I was like, wow, mind blown kind of thing. And so we did it.
Perfect attendance. What did that look like? Not taking leave or just no
call-ins.
No call-ins. Gotcha.
Yeah. And we just showed up every day. And that kind of demonstrated to me, I guess, looking back on it now, I didn't really put that much thought into it until I started thinking about it in this context. And that was a time in my life when I showed up consistently and I guess proved to myself that I can do that.
Right. And I think that is a challenge, even with, I love to talk about Gen Z and the younger generations. I will say that because of the mental health issues that they face with anxiety and depression and things like that, that's become harder for them. Yeah. It's become harder for them to have that quality of, I wake up, I'm feeling blue, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
I don't feel great today, and I just don't feel like doing it. And they'll give themselves permission to take the mental break day.
Yeah, it's a little different world in terms of, I'm going to call it grit, for lack of
Mm-hmm.
a, this is not to suggest that our Gen Z friends do not have grit,
Correct.
but I think it's fair to say that it shows up sometimes in different ways
Sure.
across the
Mm-hmm.
generations.
Absolutely. It shows up differently. But I'm just, looking back and thinking about it now, that was one of maybe that challenge because you were just a 20 something when you were working in the micro lab.
Yeah.
Maybe that challenge kind of gave you, just like you said, proof to yourself that, hey, I can. Okay, so I'm not going to feel like it some days, but unless I have planned leave where I've already had pre-approved leave, I'm not going to just wake up and say I'm not doing it today. And there's value in that.
Absolutely. It required a couple of things, a commitment on my part personally, and then I think above and beyond that, a commitment to the team. Like, we're
Yes.
doing this together.
I
And
think
this
that's
is
the other element because sometimes I think when you're working and you feel like nobody cares if I'm really here or not, or nobody's really counting on me, or I'm just another, number in the people pile here at work, then it's easy to lose that accountability.
And you're going somewhere, I think, with this that, at least in my brain, what you said leads me straight into something that I was about to say about that is Joey, my boss, would not have asked me to do that if he didn't think I could.
Right.
If he didn't have that certain amount of confidence and belief in me, then he would have never put that, thrown down that gauntlet.
And he was willing to do it himself.
Absolutely. He held himself to the same standard. So
That's
we're
fascinating.
we're chasing a little rabbits here, which we knew would happen.
Yeah.
But that number one for me is just showing up. Just I think, day after day, try to do the hard thing the best you can, and come back tomorrow and do it all over again.
Yeah. That's
What
really
about
good.
you? We probably go back and forth with this a few times, but what's something for you that you think has contributed most to your success?
I think just my tenacity when I'm given any kind of task. I want to see it through. I love to check things off. So I think early in my career, as I was just starting, even learning how to be a worker, that it really resonated with me when I could be given a list of things that I need to do today and I could go check them off. Now, sometimes I rushed through and like to check off and like, let's do this real hurry, we'll do this. And, I had to develop the love for details.
Self-awareness, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wonderful thing.
So I had to develop, the skill set for details, slowing down long enough that you do the job well and get things done. But just being able to be productive in almost any kind of, setting that you put me in, I'm going to be able to be productive. That's my thing. I know how to get things done.
I wrote a list of what I think are your strengths, and the number one thing I wrote down was amazing work ethic.
Okay.
I think you just described it. You see it as tenacity. I see it as work ethic. I think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. All right. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover in that little category of?
I think so, and we may spend more time here than we do anywhere else. But I think developing myself has been hugely important, and that's one of the main reasons that whatever success I've achieved, I've done it. I wasn't good enough. I gotten some natural talent, some natural abilities, and those will carry you so far. But developing yourself will carry you far beyond what you might be able to do just on your own innate strengths and abilities. And developing myself has been huge for me.
I think we're all naturally gifted in certain areas, and some things come easy to us. And a lot of times our fault is that's where we stop, is where the things come easy for us.
Yes.
And then we don't look to see, okay, here's my growth gap.
There's a reason they call it the comfort zone, because it's comfortable.
It's very
there.
comfortable. I already know how to do this. I'm not going to go over there because I have no idea what that's about.
And there's also a reason why they call it growing pains, because it's painful to grow. It's a lot easier to stay where you're already comfortable and where you already know what's up and not venture out of that zone. But that's where your real opportunities come. And when I think of developing myself, especially to learn leadership skills, I fell in love with leadership concepts and just improving my knowledge of leadership, and then figuring out how to put that stuff into practice has been a game changer for me.
So we both have worked in the federal government, and I still do. And it's been the kind of expectation that you don't really have to develop your leadership skills or any kind of leadership skills unless you go into management. And then as far as your company, the agency is concerned. And then the agency will put you through a little mini course, a crash course, if you will, on some leadership. And that's it. So if there was somebody, nobody grabbed you by the hand and said, come on, Michael, you need to learn leadership. You need to learn leadership. And here's how you do it. And I'm going to provide you the resources. And here's the thing. And I'm going to pay for it. So if somebody's out there and they're wanting to start growing themselves and have a personal growth plan,
come on,
what would you tell them to do? What does that look like?
Well, there's a lot of free resources. Well, here's number one thing. And I think I know maybe where you're going with this, and we'll get there. But read. It's been said, and I love the quotation. I don't know who it belongs to right off the top of my head, but the person who won't read is no better off in reality than the person who can't read. Don't be the equivalent of a
illiterate
person because you won't choose to read. Now, I know I love reading, and I know not everybody does. So as much as I would encourage you to read and try to develop a love for it, there are other ways that you can intake. Just be a learner. There's all kinds of free resources out there. And if you're willing to invest in yourself and nobody else is willing to invest in you, we've got good news for you, because M Squared has some offerings that are a low threshold of cost to get in the door, and we'll help you learn. We'll help you pour into yourself so you can improve. You can learn leadership from the man himself, John Maxwell, who's written the book on it times 100, literally written almost 100 books on leadership and personal growth. Look us up at m2-lead.com. Under our services, we've got a leadership lab, which is the way we're rebranding our masterminds, which is an opportunity for you to come together with some like-minded people who are interested in growth. We learn together from the writings of John Maxwell, and we put it into practical application right there in a small group setting. I think you'll love it. Yeah,
that's fantastic. And some other ways that, when I was just a little baby learner, just listening to audiobooks. And of course that's reading. That's a form of reading for some people.
Find something that works for you.
Yeah. And, just everybody wants to have something in their ears these days. I mean, we've got something going all the time. There's amazing podcasts right now, any number of leaders, different styles where you can learn. But remember, I think, too, the way that we learned was just who we wanted to be in the room with. We kept thinking about,
that's so good.
Who do we want to be in the room with? Who do we want to learn from? And, that's people, practical people in your life, or it's people that maybe you aspire to be. I remember our very first little leadership conference that we ever went to was John Maxwell. And it was in Pensacola, Florida. And it wasn't just cheap, No. I don't remember. It was a few $100s for each of us. It carried a cost
with it.
Plus the hotel, plus the travel and eats and that sort of thing. but it changed our lives. We were willing to invest in ourselves, and those little things like that. Anytime that you're willing to, put a few bucks behind,
Put your money where your
yeah,
mouth
and
is.
just really invest in yourself. That's, to me, that's so important. Like, so, I wanted to be in the room with John Maxwell, and he had amazing speakers that day. And we make it an effort to go to a conference, at least one conference every year. And we've already went to a couple last year.
Most of the time, more than one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I know we're spending a lot of time on this. Is there anything else you want to share for your success?
Most success. So the other thing that made me most successful is that I loved to learn. I was teachable. I was coachable. I didn't go into any job thinking I already knew everything. That was a thing about me. Like, I knew I don't know how to do this. Please teach me. But boy, I wanted to learn. I didn't want somebody to have to tell me more than once how to do something. And I always wanted to know the why behind the buttons they were telling me to push. I always wanted to know the why behind, so I could do it on my own next time. So I think those are some of the things that made us successful.
Coachability and curiosity.
Yeah.
Intellectual curiosity. I love that.
Yeah.
Just one more thing each quick and we'll move on. I think for me, it's building relationships, going the extra mile to meet people, make friends, and nurture those friendships.
Yes.
I'm not always perfect at it, and there may be somebody watching this that says, I haven't heard from you and I don't know when. I'm sorry about that. I try to stay in touch with people that I've come across in my time, and nurture those friendships and go the extra mile, like I said, to do that.
Yeah, keep those relationships kind of alive, even outside of work and that sort of thing.
Yes.
That have a true friendship. You never know the resources you can share with each other. So one of the things for me is, I remember, I was always embarrassed when I messed up, when I made a mistake.
Okay.
And as a kid and with siblings, I always wanted to blame somebody else. Oh, it was my sister, it was my brother that did it, or they did it. You always want to take that blame off of you. But when I learned to take responsibility, just to own my mistake and to say, hey, I messed up. Oh my goodness, I messed this up. How can I fix it? Or I think I can fix it if I can do it this way. That was the most relief I think I've ever felt in my life. And when my confidence started to build in knowing that I could just take responsibility for my mistakes or not. And it also developed my relationship with my peers, because I've always been a little bit of an overachiever, and maybe can be intimidating a little bit because I go hard and strong all the time. And so with my peers, when I can say, oh my gosh, I messed up, can you help me with this? There's such a good bond building, reputation building, trust building that you do when you take responsibility.
I've got questions for you. I think what you're talking about is it shows a degree of humility that is very becoming when you see it in somebody. They're willing to say, I messed up.
And I remember all the times I've been arrogant and tried to say, oh, that was just the system's fault, or, and I just cringe when I think about those times, instead of saying, you know what, I made that input and it was wrong. Let me see if I can get it fixed.
So I think you're speaking to something that probably a lot of people face. I know I have from time to time, and it's the wanting to not own up to our mistakes, wanting to kind of sweep them under the rug. Or I don't want people to know, why do you think we're so reluctant to do that? What is that in human nature that...
it's just that shame. Nobody wants to feel the shame of not measuring up and not being good enough. And we all have a little bit of that in us, that
absolutely,
we're not good enough in certain areas. And it's hard to, just say, hey, I messed up. That was my bad, my mistake. But once you learn how to say it, it's
Yes.
it's so easy to do it. It's like, and it's such a relief that you're doing it that
It's
way.
really freeing, isn't
It
it?
absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you can get over the need to posture and the
Yes.
need to try to appear better, bigger, smarter, whatever than you really are. It's kind of in a way embracing your true self, warts and all, because
Absolutely.
we all have them.
We absolutely all have them.
Neither one of us is perfect, and nobody watching this is perfect.
And nobody knows everything. You know, you're not going to, any kind of conversation that you go into or meeting someone or having interactions, you're not going to know every
Nobody
topic.
expects you to
No.
know everything.
And you're not going to know every topic that comes up. And if you've ever been around someone who tries to know something about every topic that comes up, instead of being curious, they've got to say something. You know how annoying it is, the person that knows everything. So just, yes, that edge of humility is just, it softens you,
Yes.
makes you more approachable, and it really nurtures your relationships.
It's clear we're not going to have enough time to get through everything we had planned for this episode, but why don't you move us along to the
let's
next
do
thing?
it. All right.
When the time comes, we'll look for a stopping point.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about what are the times that you've been held back, and what do you think really caused that, either personally or professionally? What held you back? What are some things? So we're now just talking a little bit about the negative side of things. Let's name some boo-boos we've had.
Okay. For me, I think my clear number one is perfectionism. If I'm going to do something, I want it to be right. I want it to be perfect. I get hung up on that. It, number one, makes me slow. Okay, let's just admit it. It makes me slower than I have to be, because I want it 100% of what it needs to be, not 80 or 90 or 95 or 99. I want it 100%.
And sometimes that matters.
Sometimes it does, but a very small percentage of the times does that really matter. And I will obsess over something because it's not all the way up to my standards, when, let's face it, sometimes my standards are impossibly high and nobody else expects that of me or anybody else. And it's just something, it's a personality trait. I'm aware of it. I'm working on it now. But I think that's one of the big things that has held me back from some of the success that I probably could have had. What about you?
I definitely see that in you. So we're not going to,
There's not going to be a lot of surprises here between the two of us.
So we're not really going to pick on each other. But I do want to say that I've seen where you've really worked to improve that. So if you listen to our previous conversations and videos that's on YouTube, we did a lot of work on self-limiting beliefs. And let me just tell you guys, we worked through a lot of self-limiting beliefs. We started questioning everything, every decision, all the ways we were thinking and doing things. And it really affected us. Me, it was my confidence, just being confident in myself, learning to trust myself and know that I'm good enough. I can get some things done. I've always been a doer and I could accomplish tasks. But reaching to do things for myself that I felt fulfilled in doing, I lacked the confidence to do things on my own merit. And so I've, been overcoming some of those self-limiting beliefs of where I'm not good enough. A lot of this is just, psychology in the mix, where we have to go back and rethink the way that, our environment that formed us, the things we grew up with, the thoughts that were in our brain that we didn't get rid of fast enough, and they kind of grooved for us. But yeah, not having enough confidence in myself to be, I can climb this ladder. I can go do this thing. I could, do this. And I started that confidence, it's never too late. but I started it much later than I really should have. I should have had more of that confidence, a little bit earlier anyway, and I would have reached for a few more things a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm. Another one of mine that I wrote down was negativity, and I tied that to self-limiting beliefs. It's interesting that you brought that up, because those sessions were not just, hey, listen to us talk about self-limiting beliefs. We did the work as we were going through there, and are still doing the work, if we're honest. And self-limiting beliefs show up to me in thinking that I can't do things, that I'm not going to be able to pull this off. It's too big, it's too scary, I'm not good enough. And I'm working on those things. But that's something that has held me back and could continue to hold me back if I don't master it, if I don't get over it and figure out a way to get past it.
And just one final one for me is been probably consistency with developing myself. It probably wasn't until just a few years ago that I committed to, in my faith, I committed to, a Bible reading plan, and had been doing that for years and years, and, different things that would strengthen me spiritually. But I never really, put the same emphasis on some of the other leadership development, development of, leadership topics and applying them to my life. And that needs to be done consistently as well. Like, I really sat down and got me a personal growth plan and tried to become more consistent about that. How many books I'm going to read in a year, and, how many podcasts, what I'm going to intake in a day. And I'm not perfect.
Having a plan.
Yeah, but it's really just having a plan. What am I going to listen to on the way to work? I have a plan. I have this podcast and that podcast.
So it's not as haphazard maybe now as it was in the past. You might do this, you might not.
But it's amazing, and I think, you can speak to this as well, how many books you can read if you just read one chapter a night before you go to bed. And how many books you can get through if you just listen to, I have a 30-minute commute to and from, and I just spend one of those 30 minutes listening to an audiobook, and I'll zip through one of those in, a week or 2 weeks, and that's another book.
So it's not that big of a sacrifice.
It's really not. It's just, and it's investing in yourself, but doing it consistently.
And here's a thought that I'm having as we're talking about this. You can look at it and say, okay, it's a little bit here. It's 30 minutes this day. It's 30 minutes tomorrow, 30 minutes. That adds up to 30 minutes times however many, 5 days a week or whatever. And I think that's true, but I also think that the more you groove that habit and the more you stack knowledge on top of knowledge, it doesn't just add, but it starts to multiply. It starts to compound over time. And the more time, the more reps you get, and the more you stack wisdom on top of wisdom, it just
it keeps opening your brain. And it also, you're just building that good muscle memory of how to learn.
Learning how to learn.
How to take in a new concept, digest it a little bit, adding a little bit more to it. Read a different book that's on a completely different topic, but it ties in another leadership topic.
You start making connections that you never knew were there. Yes.
And you'll realize that, in your youth, you think you know everything. And then the more you start to learn, you realize, I don't know anything. So,
I love that.
All right, so let's wrap this up with one final little topic here. Everybody has blind spots.
Everybody has them.
And if you think you don't have a blind spot, then you're blind.
That's your blind spot.
But why do you think blind spots are so dangerous? Why is it a thing that we focus on in leadership, especially for people who are, otherwise competent and well-intentioned? Why is it important for them to figure out their blind spots?
So I think blind spots are really dangerous because obviously, if you're a smart, put-together person and you see something that is hindering you from getting where you want to be, what are you going to do? You're going to do something about it. You're going to attack that thing. You're going to be aggressive and assertive and whatever your term is.
Right.
You're going to do something about it. Blind spots, by definition, you can't see them. You don't know they're there. And so you can't really guard against them if you're blind to them. I think that's the real danger. And I'm sure I've been this person and from time to time, and I've seen people that get tripped up and really held back because of something that they just can't see. They're, blasting away at their own feet and don't even know it. And I think that's the real danger of blind spots. What do you think?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that we've kind of cultivated in our relationship is trying to talk about what could be our blind spots. What are the things that, you need to tell me about?
We've helped each other find some blind spots.
Absolutely. And I think you need to go even outside of, a trusted, an intimate person. You're my spouse. So, a boss or a peer that you trust that's not out to harm you, to help you see blind spots. But I will tell you this. I've experienced in my lifetime 2 people, pretty close to both of them, one very close to.
Okay.
And they both have blind spots. They're different blind spots. But the wake that they leave behind makes all the boats rock fiercely and sickeningly.
These are leaders.
They are leaders. They are leaders. And just because, and they don't understand how they enter a room, how they exit a room, the damage they do when they're in a room. And it damages those relationships of the people in the room that they enter. And then they leave out, and it's just like, and this is a leader. This is somebody that we, needed to follow. This is somebody that we needed to, be trust enough. And they both had this same quality, that they were not very coachable. And that's, I think, the key with the blind spot. If you are coachable and you're approachable when somebody needs to give you feedback, if you're open to the feedback, then your blind spots will get smaller and smaller, and they'll be less of a big deal, because somebody can say, did you realize that when you're saying this, it's hurting in this way? And you'll be like, oh my goodness, not defensive, like, no, I'm not, kind of thing. So how you can receive the feedback is going to affect how big your blind spots are going to stay.
I've struggled with this. And I think it ties back into my perfectionism. I don't want it brought to my attention that what I've done is not good. I struggle. That's hard for me to hear. And I've had to work on that. But let's just do a little exercise in logic for just a second here. All right. We're all people. People have blind spots. Right? You can't see your own blind spots. To illuminate your blind spots, you have to have another person, preferably more than one. Because if you have more than one, then you're going to see something that this one doesn't see, and this one's going to, they're all going to be able to help me. But it does me no good if I can't receive it. Coachability and the ability to internalize some feedback and accept it and take it like a man, take it like a woman, is so important. You're never going to overcome blind spots if you can't do that.
Right. And I think if you can come from a place like that, you're not intentionally having this blind spot, and when somebody shines a little bit of light on it, you're like, I never intended it to be that way. If I don't want it to be that way, then I'm willing to change.
You can course correct.
I can course correct. Yes.
But you're never going to do it if you don't know like you said, the wake that you leave
Yes.
behind.
And so these are the kinds of things that have, as we've learned them, as we've started applying them.
Absolutely.
The blind spots, putting people in our lives that can talk to us, that can coach us. This is what's helping us to be successful as we are. And not that we're tooting our own horn, but toot toot. That's what's putting us in a better place to influence others, to create a better work environment. And when you don't acknowledge those blind spots, it makes you it can make you very ineffective in what you're trying to accomplish.
One final thought on blind spots, and we'll head toward we'll land this plane.
Okay.
Head down toward the runway. A great quote I read just this morning, not really knowing it was going to be relevant to this conversation, but it's about blind spots. And this is from Dan Rockwell. He writes the Leadership Freak blog. He wrote, "Know-it-alls are surrounded by untapped talent." And that to me speaks so much to blind spots, because if you know it all and think you don't have any blind spots, then you're not going to listen to anybody else, because you already know. What's the point?
Good. I love that.
And then you're not tapping into the wonderful wealth of talent in those around you. I just thought that was so good.
That is so good. I love that. All right. So one last thing here, one last question for you. If there was someone that was listening that wanted to reflect honestly after this episode, and they really want to, dig in and ask themselves a question, what should they ask themselves?
A couple of things. I want to get to my notes here. So I think one thing to consider, you've had some measure of success wherever you are. Consider what's working because of you. What are you doing that's helping you? And what might be working in spite of you?
Eesh.
That might be a good reflection.
This is a question that I saw asked in a book that I was reading or something, and it kind of stung my heart a little bit, and it's made me be very reflective now. And it's like, what's it like being on the other side of me? So I think those are really good questions to ask. What is it like when somebody has to be on the other side of me? My tone, my the way I'm responding, my openness, am I closed? Am I demeaning? Am I uplifting?
There's nothing like self-reflection.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. So I appreciate that you guys have spent a little bit of time with us here in the M Squared Leadership Conversation.
Been fun.
And leadership really isn't about having all the answers. It's just about being willing to ask better questions. So until next time, stay curious, lead well, and keep the conversation going. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye, everybody.